Hi, and welcome back to MomCom. It's not you, it's motherhood. And I'm Nicole.
And I'm Shannon.
And today we're talking about something that so many of you have been asking for, preteen hormones.
If you've ever thought, what is happening to my sweet child? Or felt like you're walking on eggshells 1 minute and in a full emotional storm the next, this episode's for you.
We are sitting down with nurse practitioner Keaton Mims to break down what is actually happening in our kids' bodies and their brains during this stage.
We're talking about mood swings, emotional outbursts, why moms seem to get the worst of it, and most importantly, what our kids actually need from us in those really hard moments.
And honestly, what's happening in us too, because let's be real, this stage can be so triggering.
So whether you're in it right now or you know it's coming, you're going to walk away from this episode feeling more and more prepared and a lot less alone.
So let's get into it. Keaton, thank you so much for being here. We are so excited to have you. And we kind of just want to share real quick with our viewers about you. I know you're a mom, you're a nurse practitioner. So how old are your kiddos?
I have an 11-year-old daughter, a 8-year-old son, and a 5-year-old son.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I didn't realize that the 11-year-old was your oldest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're in it.
Very much so.
Yeah. 5-year-old. That's so fun, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old are y'all?
Quinn is going to be 10 and Griffin is 11.
And then I have a 10-year-old daughter, a just turned 8-year-old boy, and a 2.5-year-old boy.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So we're all not that
No, we're not that far off.
all in it together.
Yeah. But I do feel like it's much easier now that they're older.
I enjoy this stage probably as much as I've enjoyed any stage right now. They can all
Yeah.
communicate around a dinner table. We can
Yes.
play games. We don't have a diaper bag.
Oh,
Yeah, I
There's-
still have that diaper bag.
I know, man. When you get rid of that thing, it's a good feeling.
Well, it's wild because so he, being baby number 3, like did everything, wants to be a big kid so bad. So he like talked early, walked, did all the things. He could care less. He wants to keep that diaper. I'm like, please go on the potty. He's like, meh. Nah. I'm like, that's the one thing. I'm like, please, just I'm so
done
sick
with
of buying
this.
diapers.
I know.
And
Yeah.
carrying the diaper bag and all the things. But
Yeah. It's a lot to remember.
he'll get I guess
Pack
he'll do it.
up, remember.
I know. I do feel like he's the kid that just one day is just gonna, like, he definitely knows how to do it and he knows when he's about to go, but he just says
He's very smart.
he is very smart.
He's your wild child.
The
Yes, the third one.
I know. I keep thinking like the 5-year-old still wants me to pick him up and hold him. And I'm like, we're this close to being done with that. And so I'm like holding on,
Yes.
because I'm like, that's going to be hard. Because I still feel like he's like a little bit of a baby. Like we're not quite there yet where he's like feels like big. And so I'm like, come on. So that's the hardest part about letting go with that. But then I have my job where I get to play with babies all day long. So.
Okay. So this is what I remember from taking the kids in as they were little to the office. All they did was scream and cry. They screamed the whole time. You're like, nothing's even happening. We're just here to look. They're screaming and crying.
15 months, 18 months, 2 years old. If I had to see that all day long, this would not be my job anymore. Like, it's awful. Every once in a while you get a good one, but you literally walk in the room and they scream until the moment you walk out of the room. But it's funny, I played tennis. I play a lot of tennis. And I was playing on a court 2 weeks ago, and there was a woman beside us that was like doing like the big grunt every hit.
Yeah.
And all the women I was playing with, it was driving them crazy. Like I couldn't hear it. It
be me.
literally,
That would be me.
I never heard it. And they were like, how do you not hear it? And I was like, you don't understand. I have to tune so much out in my office to get work done. Like I have to be able to talk to a parent while their 3-year-old is screaming and their 6-month-old is crying. Because if not, I can't get through like a 15-minute appointment. So I'm so good at doing it.
And you're
And my husband gets so mad about it because he's like, at home, I can do it too. I can just completely. And he's like, do you not hear them? And I'm like, no, I literally don't. I don't hear anything.
What a superhero.
It's a superpower. It's a superpower.
It really is.
It
That's
really
what I
is.
meant, superpower.
Yes, superpower.
Because I wish, like sound for me is very triggering. I hate noise. I don't like it. And my kids are always making noise, and then they're upset with each other because they don't like noise either, but then they're making all the noise. I mean, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I react to like the sounds that most people don't like, the chewing and the like, like my husband does this thing. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to lose it. But so that is, I wish I had that superpower to
So when you
not
come
let that
home,
affect me.
sorry, I just cut you off, but when you come home, you're not overstimulated?
I take I only have a 7-minute commute from my house, which is phenomenal.
Wow.
Yes, no complaints there. But there is no decompression time. So I see somewhere usually between like 23, 25 people a day, like different kids, patients. And it's a new conversation every time you walk into a room. So it's a lot of talking all day long. And then I come home and sometimes I just sit in my car. So I drive home and I turn the car off and I'll scroll through something or listen to something or I'll call somebody that I've been meaning to call. And so my kids will be like standing at the door like this. And I'm like,
you're like, Mom's on.
Yeah. I'm like, come on, just give me a few. And sometimes I'll sit out there for, 15, 20 minutes. But like my husband's kind of like, I just tell him, I was like, that's my downtime. Like I need that. I need that decompression for a minute because yes, you walk in and you're back to full like mom. And we're starting to get in the phase, which you sound like you're probably there, of everybody's got activities. So Monday through Friday, somebody's got something after school. So then I only have that little bit of time before we're throwing on whatever to go to our next event.
Yeah.
So there's very little downtime.
Yeah.
You haven't asked me about Girlology yet, but sorry, jumping ahead.
Yeah.
Love it.
I do get paid for Girlology as like it is a job, and I save up the money each year to do something with it for our family. And so we went on a vacation last year, and then this year we bought a hot tub.
Oh, how fun.
And it has been the best decision. I wanted one for forever, but it's like my husband and I get in at night, like we'll put the kids to bed and we'll go sit in there, and like it's like good like talk time for us, but it's like quiet, or we'll turn on a little music, and that's a very good decompression thing too. So I have my things and my garden. Those are that's my other one. I like to go sit out in the garden and just water plants. Makes me really happy. Yeah, you do.
But sometimes I forget my poor plant. I recently just had so many die, and I'm like, oh, I'm failing.
I can't keep anything alive other than my children.
And
the 2
That's
dogs.
The most important.
And my husband, because let's face it.
Well, but let's talk Girlology.
Okay.
Let's go back to the beginning of sort of what Girlology is, how you got involved, all the things.
Yeah. So you heard this the other day, so just be a repeat for you. Girlology was started by a pediatrician and a gynecologist, Trish Hutchinson and Melissa Holmes, here in Charleston, early 2000s. And they wanted to create basically a program to more in-depth teach girls about their changing bodies. And then they created the reproduction class. And then after they created those classes, they did in-person seminars. They did them a couple times a year, and they were huge and they were wildly popular, and they did it until COVID hit. And then you couldn't get together in groups anymore. So they kind of more transferred their energy into like media platform, created a great website, a really awesome app, started writing some stuff for AAP, American Academy of Pediatrics, and so decided to kind of stop the in-person events. So when I was in 2017, so my daughter was 3, I got invited to go to one of the seminars before they had stopped, and I saw the reproduction one, the one that you just came to.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so awesome. Like I thought the approach, I thought the information, how it was just given as like, this is fact and this is life and like we're all going to experience it and you all need to know this. And coming from a trusted resource, like I loved all of it. I was so impressed by it. I thought there was some humorous parts to it. Like I just thought it was like lighthearted, And so I thought when my daughter's old enough, like this is how I want her to get the information. And then when she turned 8, I thought, okay, like I want somewhere between 8.5 and 9. I'd like her to do the puberty class. And when I went to look for it, they were like, we're not doing it anymore because COVID had hit and they had shut it down. So I contacted them and I was like, do you let other people teach it? Could I start teaching it here? And they said yes. And so me and 3 of my colleagues were trained, went through the training program and started teaching it in August 2022. So started small. My classes had like 10 to 12 girls in them at first just to see if it would catch on. And then like people really liked it. And it had a good following already here. People knew about it. So it wasn't hard to get it back going again. So I do 3 puberty classes and then 1 reproduction class every semester, spring and fall. And then we have a guy that does the Girlology. But then a couple of my colleagues have gone to other practices and they still do them. So we've got one girl who does them out in Somerville and then a doctor who does them out in Johns Island. So it's awesome. It's just really great information.
Because we recently, we brought both of because our girls, Quinn's almost 10, Lucy just turned 10. So we brought them both to the reproduction one. And you're right. I think, because we talk about all of these things at home. Like I really, we really
good for you, because in the South, people don't. It's taboo.
Like it's your body. And, and like for my daughter, probably 6 months ago, I bought her a period kit from Scarlet by Red Drop. And so we have in her backpack for whenever she needs it, whether it's any time, who knows, but it's, size appropriate, age appropriate things for her to be prepared. And so when we went to the reproduction one, as much as I thought like, oh, we're already having all these conversations, to hear it from a professional and it's science, like you said,
the science is so cool.
And I think that the way you share the information in a way that like it's science, it's real life. This is actually your body and what's happening with it. I thought it was so interesting. And I think I mentioned to you when you walked in, like my daughter and I think every day we're talking about something that we sort of talked about in the class. And it was a really nice way to be able to, the drive after that. I was like, hey, do you have any questions? Like, was there anything? Because she goes, oh my gosh, I'll never look at a boy the same. And I'm like, okay, maybe
it's probably a good thing. No, that's probably a good thing.
So, but no, it's amazing that you offer what you do. And we need to get the girls to the puberty one.
Well, that's what I thought I signed up for.
You're not the first that has done it.
I had no idea.
Yes.
Actually, I didn't know that there were 2 different classes. And so I think it's great to take both. I have always been super open with my kids. I grew up in California, then we lived in Chicago, and then we moved here. And I just always felt like I want to be who they come to about mostly everything.
Yeah.
And if I'm open and silly in all these ways with them, then they'll feel that way. And so my son has been asking me about periods since he was really young.
Yes.
Because he'd see and he'd ask and I'd answer and I'd say, do you have anything else?
Because they're breaking you on the bathroom. And
they do. And, and my son has sensory issues. So he doesn't like to wear clothes still to this day. He's 11. So we're just a very open family. So for Quinn, though, she was a little more embarrassed, like when I would talk to her about these things, especially like what I loved. One of the many things I loved about your talk was the emphasis on nobody else is supposed to be touching your body, and kind of like those boundaries that you put up, because there's something that I've been talking to them about since they were little, but I think it's different when they hear somebody else say it.
And maybe in the context of what we're talking about too. And if I do this class 50 times and all that comes out of it is one child feels empowered to say no to something that makes them feel uncomfortable, I've done my job. Like that's enough.
And I really felt that. And I was like, I think Quinn, like this has really gotten to Quinn, and that she kind of, Griffin will ask and talk about anything, and she's a little more quiet, and it's a little different. So
that's what Melissa Holmes did, a TED Talk that the American Academy of Pediatrics says, have these conversations with kids when they're 8. It doesn't mean that you maybe have to go as in depth with it, but like start talking about everything, because if you can get them a lot of this information before they become really sensitive or embarrassed, or they already feel like they know everything, or they've already heard enough from their friends where they feel like I got out everything I need, then you get to be their point contact for information moving forward. But the moment they start finding it other places, you've lost that edge and that ability to have that conversation before. So it'll be funny if you do go to the Girlology, the first class, it's
Of course
the
we did it
the
backwards.
SNAE, something new about you class, because it is such a talkative and interactive class, but it's a lot of 8, 9, 10 versus the reproduction class is often more 9, 10, 11. Like it's a little bit older group. And just that small differentiation between the ages.
Yeah.
Such a difference in the interaction. So I did my last class for the spring on Sunday. It's supposed to be 2 hours long. We were at 2 hours and 45 minutes. And I was just like, I had to stop taking questions. Like I had to stop, it had gone on so long, but the girls talk so much and they have so many questions and it's a little less heavy of a topic, right?
Yeah, it was fair. I was like, I learned some things in that.
Yes,
I did too.
The moms learn a lot of stuff in the classes, but the girls are just, it's a little bit more lighthearted and fun, which I feel like I could do better in this class. I ask if people have questions, but there's a little bit more of like, tell me this or raise your hand and give me this in the first class. And so I think it gets them going a little bit more. So then they ask towards the end. But it is like I usually have to cut that class off because there's so many questions and the girls are talking so much. So it's just a little bit different energy. It's so good.
I don't remember having these conversations with my mom. Not to say that she wouldn't but it wasn't... my mom just wasn't really in mom mode. She was in party mode always. So it wasn't like, let's teach my daughter about her body, And so I think those were different times. And now because of the internet, there's so much more information. Kids are, on these devices. Who knows what they can, see on these devices, which is really scary. So I feel like we need to be the first ones to have these conversations with them.
Let's take a quick break.
Hey moms, quick question. Have you found period products for your daughter that actually feel made for her age?
Not just smaller sizes, but products that actually understand what tweens and teens need.
That is why we're so excited about Scarlet by Red Drop. Their products are made with real girls in mind.
From pads and tampons to period kits and everyday essentials, everything is designed to help her feel confident and cared for wherever she is in her journey.
And honestly, it's not just about the products.
Right. Scarlett also focuses on education that actually makes sense. No awkward conversations, no outdated information. Just simple, real guidance girls can relate to.
Which makes it way easier for us moms, too.
Exactly. It's support for the whole family, not just something you toss in a backpack.
If you're looking for a brand that meets your daughter where she is and helps her feel prepared and confident, definitely check out Scarlet by Red Drop.
Scarlet by Red Drop products are available at Ulta, Walmart, Amazon, and directly on their website at tryreddrop.com. You can also follow them on Instagram at Scarlet by Red Drop for education, resources, and support for girls and moms navigating puberty and periods. Now, I have a question because I've heard, and it makes so much sense to me, that when you have multiple children in your home, so your oldest, you said, like, really make sure you start at 8, but I've heard you can assume that the kids, your children, how did it go? Know the amount that like the oldest one does, if that makes sense, because they all talk and hear things. So do you feel like you have to start the conversations younger and younger, or is kind of 8 the...
No, I would say that like what their comprehension, every kid's a little different. I've had some 8-year-olds come to my classes and they've been really goofy and probably not ready for the information yet, and then I've had some young ones like ask really intelligent, like thought-provoking questions. And so I think every kid's like, you have to gauge it for your kid too. And also like the earlier they're asking questions, probably the more ready for the conversation they are versus if like they're 9 and they've literally never broached the subject, then you've probably got a little bit of time. But no, I hope, each kid that goes by, I'm like, oh yeah, I feel like we forgot to go over that with the younger one. I'm like, oh, we forgot to talk about this. But I don't want to assume that they've gotten it all just from, absorption from everything that we talk about at home. I plan to take each of them to the Girlology classes or have them watch the video or sit down and talk with them on my own. I plan to do that with each of them because I just feel like it's so important. But
it's so important.
I'll credit my mom. I asked her very point blank about reproduction conversation when I don't remember what age I was. I think it's still traumatizing for her to remember. But she did her best. And like, she really told me everything because she answered all my questions. I could tell it was very uncomfortable for her. I don't remember us having like a puberty, period / hormone / acne, like those kind of like conversations specifically. Maybe we did it in like little pieces. I don't know. But I do feel like there were certain things that, like, because I grew up in a religious environment growing up that were just not spoken of in general, that I felt like they impacted me as an adult. They impacted me in relationships. They impacted me, probably with self-confidence and things like that I wish I had a lot of this information before. And so, so I think it's personal for me too, that like, I just want to give
empower.
I get this empowerment to like all these kids to feel really comfortable with their bodies and confident with their bodies and not scared to ask questions.
I think that's amazing. What a powerful message, because I do think each generation, we talk so much about generations, but my mom tells me, when she was growing up, it was quite literally not talked about. Like, she had a child and had never spoken to her mom about periods and breastfeeding and all of that.
Wild.
Right.
I remember we had health class when I was a kid. I don't know exactly how old I was, but they did talk about it.
Yeah.
And I was the kid who I loved having this information, and I was not embarrassed to talk about it. My parents were separated, and I was probably 11, and I was not anywhere near getting my period. And I was like, Dad, I have to have tampons and pads at your house in case it starts. But then I told my aunt, I have to have tampons and pads at your house. And my mom was dying because she was like, oh my God, I was not anywhere near it. But I just think, like you said, every kid is different. And I think my mom was grateful that our school at that time had actually broached the topic. I don't even know if schools do that now?
So
are they talking about it
I don't know how much they do on the puberty end of it. They have a really actually thorough health class in 6th grade. So my daughter's in 6th this year at Moultrie Middle, and she didn't have health this year. She'll have it next year. So I think that you can. But some of her friends, I've talked to their parents. It seems pretty comprehensive. I think they do a pretty good job. But my kind of feeling on that is it's 6th grade though. I feel like we should be doing this earlier. So I feel like that could be pushed a little sooner, which is why I think this class is nice if people get into it a little bit sooner. And it definitely goes a little bit more in depth in terms of what you talk about and the science behind it. Once again, I think for that class in particular that y'all went to, it's you talk about all the pieces of everything and how it works and the science. And then you finally get to the part of how does this come together? But it almost just makes sense at that point. It's almost like we've put all the puzzle pieces together. We have to say it out loud, but there's no other option. This is how it happens.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it kind of builds in a nice way to get to that point too.
Yeah. So did you have a class? I did, where we had the health class, but then you carried around a flower, that was your baby, and you did it and some kids had actual babies that would cry in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But we did the flower.
We
you
had
to
flower
carry around
sacks.
the flower
Yes, I do
sacks.
remember that. I haven't thought about that in a really long time. We had to carry around flower sacks. And I don't know if that was more teaching you that having a baby is hard. So abstinence is better. I don't know what the purpose of that was. Now that I think about it. Because my health class, God bless the teacher I had, he played a reproduction video in the background, and we played card games because he didn't want to actually. He was a PE coach that also taught health at our school.
Wow.
And he was a Christian school.
I showed them the video.
I showed them the video. If they wanted to watch it, it was there, but nobody was. We were playing card games in his room while this was playing in the background on this tiny TV behind us. And so that was all we got. But we did have to carry around the baby. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it was more for you don't want this in your life versus this is how it is to take care of a baby when it's a sack of flour.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It was a wild time. But I wonder, learning about this with your friends at school, it just feels like that's so much, the Girlology classes just feel more purposeful.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think you're not really taking it seriously when you're in a classroom full of your classmates. Your parents aren't there. They don't know what you're learning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just would prefer, we did, to take them to a Girlology class where they're learning and then we're with them.
Yeah.
right? So we know what they're learning and hearing and seeing and all that stuff. So
that was so smart by them to incorporate the parents into that, where it's like, now you know what they know.
You know,
and then all questions moving forward can build on that foundation versus like, you're kind of like, what's, and I also don't think that as many parents would send the kids if they weren't sure what was happening in the classroom either, because it's a sensitive topic, especially in the South. So in a more conservative environment. So they were really smart to do that and to incorporate that.
Yeah, that really was. And Griffin wants to go to the Girlology one. He asked me, he's like, well, is there a guy one? And then they were asking, Griffin and his friend were asking the girl, what did you learn? And his friend goes, well, I had the birds and bees talk with my parents.
Good.
It's so funny.
And just to hear them kind of talking about it, I don't know, it was really cute.
That is sweet. I think it's important that they talk about it. But it also, it's what we said, like that way we know what they're hearing. And my daughter's pediatrician said, like, don't listen to your friends. They don't actually know what they're talking about. Like, she was like,
they don't know more than you. I mean, they're getting this information. And if y'all just all kind of like, the hearsay stuff, it's like that Mad Lib, right? Like, you're just like,
I love it.
The Mad Lib is really cute, but it makes sense. I mean, it's a good analogy for what it's like to get, ineffective information or information from a lot of sources that aren't factual, and then to try to like put it together yourself, how confusing that is for a kid.
Exactly.
It really is.
The program's great. I wish I could take credit. I lead it, but they did such a good job writing it and putting it together.
They did. Everyone should go take a class. But what I would like help with is dealing with my daughter and all these hormones.
Yeah, let's talk preteen teen hormones.
After that, I'm researching, and a lot of it is, just changes in the brains as they're, and how long is this going to happen for? Like,
well, we've had a lot of listeners say, like, can you talk a little bit more about preteen hormones and teen hormones? So you are the right person to share with us.
Well, okay, let's start with the science, because that's my favorite part. I'm such a nerd.
Love that.
So you have your hypothalamus, which is like a deep part of the brain, and it sort of connects like your central nervous system to your endocrine system. And it does that through the pituitary gland, which is what sends out a lot of your hormones. So from the time you're little, you have this one hormone, it's GnRH, and it gives you this like consistent amount of it all the time. And then around puberty time for most people, assuming that there's no medical reason why you're going early or late, it starts to give this irregular pattern. And when the irregular pattern starts to happen, that is what triggers puberty. So you always have this hormone, but it's just when it becomes more irregular. Leptin, insulin, there's some other things that can make it more irregular that start to peak during those right ages. And then that's when you start to get the androgens and the estrogens for girls, the testosterone for boys. And that's what starts signaling that to be created and to go more through your body. And that's what starts all of the puberty process. And then these same hormones are now connecting with your serotonin, your dopamine receptors in the brain. And that's what gives a lot of the emotional dysregulation. So it's because we've never had these other hormones before interacting with our brain. And that's why it's starting to feel irregular. And for the first couple of years after you start puberty, your body's kind of figuring things out. So it's not giving a consistent amount of these hormones either. Like, it's very irregular. And I think that's why there are weeks in which your child seems like them and like very regulated, and then weeks in which it seems very dysregulated, and they're responding to that. And so that is why it does this. But usually after a couple of years, there's that levels out, and so you can stop blaming it on hormones as much. And then it just
41, I still blame everything on hormones.
Fair. And as we go through like our menstrual cycles, we get irregulations or dips in our estrogen, progesterone, and that's what triggers your period each month. It's like you have this regular level. When it drops, that's when your period happens. And so it is a change in those hormones again, which is what causes like the PMS symptoms. It causes postpartum mood disorders, and it's just all like a difference in the amount regulating with your central nervous system.
Great.
So there's the science. Which is why when women go through menopause, a lot of times they get estrogen supplements, or sometimes even testosterone supplements, because it helps regulate. Because too high of those levels and too low of those levels typically end up with depression symptoms. I mean, that's very highly correlated. So that's why people do it, is because it like re-regulates a lot of that.
Yeah. So at this point of time, my daughter is going to be getting the hormones and going, crazy. And then I'm losing my hormones. And I have been on hormone replacement therapy. I've taken a little break from it, but it's going to be a crazy time. And when you have kids close in age, they're 18 months apart.
Yeah.
I know boys, it tends to happen later, right?
It does. Thankfully, they're not at the same. Yeah. The boys generally start the process a little later than the girls do.
Okay. Well, that's some good news, guys.
Silver lining, I guess. Maybe.
I mean, I don't know. So what's your advice? Like, I think the first part is to understand that your children are having hormones, but yes, it's in the brain. Like, they can't help it,
Right.
And
no, it is not their fault.
It's not personal. It's not a personal attack towards you. They literally cannot help themselves.
And so the best advice I can give is that you really want to like acknowledge that they're having these feelings. Like, these feelings are real. These emotions are real. And you're also getting these neurological connections in your brain that are allowing you to now even like register and recognize emotions that you haven't been able to before. So everything's real. And like, I can't tell you what you're allowed to feel and what you're not allowed to feel. Like, that's not fair. So if they're mad and they don't even know why, or if they're about to cry and they can't even tell you why, because they just feel kind of out of sorts, like, that's okay to feel that. But I think our job as parents is to teach them, like, this is going to happen for the rest of your life. You have to figure out how you manage it well. Like, it's not like we can't just say, oh, it's hormones. Like, whatever you do is okay.
Yeah, right.
It's got to be like, it's the same way that with toddlers, where like, we understand you can't communicate and that makes you mad, but you can't bite your friends and you can't smack us in the face. Like, there are natural consequences for that. The same thing has to happen for adolescents. So, we try to, like, a lot of therapists, especially, you try to name your emotions, like being able to recognize, what am I feeling in this moment? And then like, what can you do? And what works for you? What works for me might not work for somebody else.
Right.
Like, for some people, they want isolation. For some people, they want to talk more. For some people, they want physical release. For some people, they, want to do art or they want to journal. And I think like figuring out what works for you is good, but also making sure that we're not accommodating in a way that like they feel like, oh, it's okay,
Right.
And so I think that's the biggest thing that I run into is where, and another thing that moms probably more so than dads do in general, is we project a lot of our emotions, maybe our past trauma of what middle school is like for us, or going through hormonal changes. So it's like for us, onto our kids too. And so sometimes that makes us like try to really coddle them hard. And in fairness, I'm a tough love mom. So I realize that like I'm this far end of it, but I also don't want to make it like, oh, it's not your fault. Like, if you say something horrible to your friend, it is actually your fault. It might be coming from a place that feels out of control to you, but you are responsible for your actions, and your actions are going to dictate like how people respond to you. So like, you have to learn to manage them. And so I think it's like, it's a good balance of like empathy and understanding, but also like this hard line of like, but we have to figure this out. And like, our job as the parent is to try to help them figure this out. So, what can we do? And maybe we need to get you a new activity that allows you to release this. Maybe that's our job as a mom. Maybe we need to set up some like play dates with friends that are good friends for you during these times. Maybe we need to, as a family, like take more walks or go play tennis or do stuff that gets physical, so maybe there's things that we can provide to allow that release or for you to figure it out. But it's still like, it's not just everything's okay. Like, do whatever you need to do to, even if it hurts other people, because that's not okay.
Right.
It's not. And I think what I'm hearing you say is connection.
Yeah.
Find connection in doing something else. If it's with friends in a different way, if it's your family going for walks, going to play pickleball together, going for a bike ride. Those are really important, just having the connection. I think a lot of moms, though, I take it personal. Like, I'm patient, and then I just can't take it anymore because nothing I'm doing is working.
Yeah.
And so then I just tend to lose it because I too am trying to be emotionally regulated and I cannot.
So hard.
So
So hard.
I can do it for a limited amount of time.
It's true.
And, then Griffin said something really mean to his sister. And I said, if I ever hear you say that again, you're going to a military boarding school because you will not live in this house and talk to people like that.
Yeah.
What a terrible response. I basically just told him I was going to ship him away, which I don't mean, but I feel like nothing I do works. I'm patient, it doesn't work. I try to get him to do something different, it doesn't.
I'm in the same. I didn't even tell you the story. I recently told my son that he was going to probably end up at the juvenile detention center because and then he's like, oh my God. Like, I'm not trying to be the parent who's like leading with shame or but sometimes I'm like,
you don't know what else to do.
I don't know what else to do.
That's my tough love.
Patient until I'm not. And then it's like this weird empty thread. And then now he probably is like worried about something that I don't need him to be worried about.
I mean, we're not perfect.
We're doing our best.
And clearly you're not in this by yourself, So like, I think that we all feel this way about this, but we don't, my daughter is not going to handle her emotions in the same way that I do. My daughter's extremely artistic. I don't have an artistic bone in my body.
That's like Quinn.
So she also, like, I would rather go out with friends and chat and take my mind off of things because I'm an extrovert.
Yeah.
She would rather go and draw or journal or just do something quiet. And so I also think sometimes I have to like recognize that about her, that we don't speak the same language sometimes and like be understanding of that. And then another thing is like, we can't control anybody else and how they feel. And I think like if I take it personal that she's feeling some way that I'm doing, like I can't control her and like how she's feeling. And so sometimes I have to like let it go as a mom too and just be like, you know what, she can figure that out. But also like we need space from each other sometimes as well, we just need to, like, you need to go do your own thing. Thankfully, my husband and her connect on a very artistic level. And so sometimes he is a great buffer and I can you take her, I'll take the boys, like, and I can handle, like, I'm more on their level today but then sometimes she's my, a good buddy and like we have so much fun together. And so I think it's okay just to know that it's going to be like this for a little bit, but
it's only temporary.
And it's a good reminder, like you can't control anybody else's emotions. And as parents, I think we try to control so much because we have the weight of like, it's our job to create these productive, thriving individuals. So when things seem to go off the rails a little bit, it's like we unintentionally are taking it as something we did wrong.
We take it personally.
Oh, I mean, everything. Yeah. But you're right.
They're not always a complete reflection of us and they're not, and what they do and how they end up is only a piece of what we've done. Right. And that's hard. But I think even as an adult, like in my job, there are days that there are weeks where I'll see 100 families, by the end of the week or approximately. And the one that maybe wasn't happy with what I had to say or didn't have a good experience, that's the one I'll focus on, right? And at the end of the day, they could have been having something going on in their life that had nothing to do with me, them being mad that I was, running 20 minutes behind, which in medicine is not that bad. But, like maybe they had something bad happen. And like, it's just like if people are going to be mad or people are going to be upset like that, you can't take that all on you because, unless you did something with intention poorly towards somebody, like you just have to let them be sometimes. And that's a hard thing to do, especially if you're like a people pleaser or, or you want everybody to love you all the time, especially if you love them a lot. Like it's really hard.
And my kids were sick like every month before I got a new AC system put in with all new ductwork and all new windows because Griffin had mold in his body, which probably means we all had mold in our body. And ever since we moved here, when the kids were 4 and 5 years old, they were sick constant. And then, so I would come into the office and I just felt so defeated, quite honestly. And when you're saying this, I'm thinking, oh God, was it ever me? Because I just felt like, here we are again. My kids are sick. I still have to work. It's never ending. They're never not going to be sick. If it's not one, it's the other. Quinn was puking every month. Literally, since I got everything changed, they have not been sick for 2 school years.
That's awesome.
I know. I never come in anymore. You never see me. And now I'll probably see you on Monday.
Yeah, right. Don't jinx it.
Right. Yeah, we have families that come in. Like, we're here for our weekly visit, you know, or
It's so
here
hard
for
when you're in that.
I mean, and when you have kids in daycare and they're just kids are gross and they, you know, their hands are in their mouths and their noses and all the other kids are too. And like, they're going to catch stuff and that's just part of it. But yeah, I have some families that come in and they're just so frustrated. And, you know, it is, but no, I take so few things personally in life. I'm really not sensitive in that way, especially when it comes to the clinic. But I think just as a people pleaser, like I tend to like focus on that one thing that I feel like I could have done better versus like all the ones that I feel like I did do a good job with.
99 amazing things. That you did. But I feel like that's part of like the human experience, right? Is we always tend, even though we tell our kids like, no, you tell me every day, like, be positive. If you focus on the positive things happen. But again, as human beings, I think sometimes we just...
Well, as the day goes on,
that just...
it gets knocked down a couple notches and I'm like, oh my God. So what is happening?
I want to go back to this idea, because you're so spot on, that we can't just say... Your people can't just do horrible things and then say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm just super hormonal. Like, you're still a human being and you're still responsible for your actions.
Absolutely.
So are there ways, because I feel like me, even as an adult, like my poor husband, when I'm going through it, pretty awful to be around, I'll be honest. Like, I PMS pretty intensely, and I've been at this for a long time. And I genuinely think those words have probably come out of my mouth where I'm like, I'm so sorry, it's not me, it's the hormones. Like, what? I am a strong woman. So I say all of this to say, how can we set our kids up in a better way? I mean, maybe it is just having those very real conversations about, like what you said, you know, you're still responsible for the words that are coming out of your mouth. And you can't just, like, you have to learn how to experience this. I mean, is there anything that, you know, I don't know, that we might be missing that we should be thinking about?
I think the conversation about like, this is going to happen to you. You're going to have these moments where you feel out of control your emotions or you want to do something. And so you have to learn, you know, and sometimes it's just learning, like naming those emotions, being able to recognize them so that when you feel them happening, you can go ahead and intervene with you, whatever works for you before it gets to that point. It's kind of like recognizing it and trying to, you know, kill the fire before it gets to the point where it's there. And I think that we all just have to learn that in our own way. And it doesn't mean that it still doesn't like blow up sometimes, but I think if they're more aware of it and they're more aware, when I'm feeling this, I probably don't need to do X, Y, Z, or I probably don't need to be around this triggering person or this triggering thing, or I need to spend more time by myself. Like, hopefully just teaching them those tools, kind of the same thing that we talk about kids that have anxiety. You know, if you can develop tools early in life, you can use those for the rest of your life when you recognize what things work for you. But there's not a magic pill. There's not a,
hopefully
you
they
know,
don't go eat ice cream like their mom does.
But for some people, like maybe there's if it's once a month and it's helpful, like it's not the worst thing in the world. If it makes you a nicer person to be around and it calms things down. And
in the moment it does, and then I'm like, why did I do that?
And and like moms, like, are probably a daughter's safest person too, right? And we know that even from the time they're little. Like, they'll hold it together for school and their teachers and the people that they know are not going to accommodate for them. And then kind of let it loose for the people that they know aren't going anywhere. Like, you know, at the end of the day, I could do the worst of the worst of the worst. My parents will still love me. My children will still love me. My husband will hopefully still love me. And so it's, you know, so I think that's like a thing too, is like we are going to inadvertently get the brunt of it. But I think there was one question I said you might ask me at some point, but like I tell families this a lot. Our children don't need us to be their friends. They need us to be their parents. And I do think that a lot of parents get into that window of like, I'm trying so hard to be like their friend, not necessarily like the cool mom, but like I'm trying to be their buddy and be their sounding board. And they've got friends for that. Like they need you to be the voice of reason and the voice of like, this is how you this is how you're going to like get through life, and this is how you're going to deal with relationships, and this is how you're going to deal with like coworkers and bosses that you don't get along with. Like you have to learn these are actual life skills, and that's what we're here to do for them. And so trying to, teach them in that moment versus just being I'm sure that teacher was really mean to you. I'm sure that he had it out for you. No, he doesn't. They're teachers.
Right.
They're here to help you. Like, nobody went into teaching for the poor salary because they hate children, or it's like that kind of stuff where you don't want to be that person that's just always being like, it's okay. It's not your fault, because sometimes it is their fault, And once again, this is me and my tough love side coming through, but like,
no,
that's the part that actually gets through and works a lot.
When I was a kid, my mom, this is funny because I don't remember a lot of things, but she had a newspaper clipping and it was like a comic thing, but it says, your kid doesn't need a 40-year-old friend. They need a parent. And she had it on the refrigerator and she like gave it to my dad because she's like, it's exactly what you're saying is you have to find that boundary and that line of, you have to be the parent.
That's true.
I know there's so much to cover. I have another question.
No,
because I'm thinking about what you said at the very beginning of how all kids are going to go through this at different times. You said in your class that we went to about all kids also have a different knowledge base, right? So now our girls, because we took them to your class, like they really do they know a lot of information. And they kind of have this understanding of what's going to happen to their bodies, and their bodies are going to be changing. But they might have friends that are on a totally different level and don't necessarily know what's coming, or their parents are choosing to do that, whatever it might be. But I think we all know that, kids tease each other, or their bullying can happen as bodies start changing and things like that. I mean, is there any guidance, thoughts you have around just that preparation that we need? Because I'm even just starting to see it with little comments, little things that may or may not be happening among these kids. Thoughts on how kids should handle themselves in those moments?
I try. So somebody told me one time that for adult, and it might honestly, sorry, Trish and Liz, it might have been one of the Girlology app blog things, because I watch a lot of them because they're really good. But I want to say that it was something along those lines, but it was like, in some of those situations already have like a pre-planned response to certain things. Yeah. Like if like already something that you've thought of in your head that is rational, that is not cruel, that's not, to respond if somebody says something to you to make fun of you or things like that, because it's going to come. But, maybe more education about the fact that like there is a huge window of normal with puberty. Yeah. Like some girls, I have 9-year-olds, in the clinic who have started their period. I have girls who are 16 that have just started. Right. Both are totally normal. Right. But that's going to be a very different look in terms of like body type and even like emotional maturity and stuff from the girl who started at 9 versus the girl who doesn't start till 16 sometimes. Right. And so I think that if you know that as a girl, you're going to be a lot more accepting and kind and empathetic than if you're just always are thinking we are all on the equal level here. And so somebody's just better or worse than another because of where they're at with this, if they understand that like this is a process that's so different for everybody. But I think us modeling self-confidence is huge. The Girlologists have done it's about body positivity for women. And when you show that and you show confidence, when you show that you have really healthy friendships, when you show that you have extracurricular activities, that your life doesn't just revolve around your kids, like that's so healthy for them to see. And so hopefully they can like be body positive. They can recognize good traits in friends. They can see what a good friend is versus what a poor friend is, and so I think there's a lot on our end that we can do to be those good examples for them. Whereas if we are constantly self-deprecating or we're constantly talking about our calorie intake or how our body doesn't look good in XYZ or whatever, the kids feed on that. Like you're their idol. Like that's who they're listening to. And so I think that's something that we can do to help them as well with that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's also so helpful.
Yeah, that really is.
But the bullying will happen.
I know.
It's going to happen. I mean, and you're going to have a kid that's more sensitive than another. Like my daughter, thankfully, is I'm sure she feels hurt by things sometimes, but she's very good at recognizing good friends and like the ones that are actually nice to her. And like she's very good at recognizing mean girls or girls who are very superficial. And she's done a great job of picking her friends. And I've been really proud of her. She has very good friends.
That's amazing.
And so, hopefully I've got good friends too that she sees that are like good and healthy, but my middle child is a little bit more like, I want to please everybody. I want to be like the cool group. I'm willing to do the silly thing that makes everybody laugh, even if I get in trouble for it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's the one that's going to be tough. Like, you think it's going to be the girl, but I was like, I'm already like anticipating, like, that's the one that's going to, that's the one that's going to be harder. He's the one that cares about being made fun of for his clothes. Like, my daughter will say, like, Mom, what should I wear today? As an 11-year-old, she does not care. And he's like, I'm not wearing that. I'll be laughed at. Or I'm not wearing that. Like, that's not cool. And so I feel like it's also going to be a different child to child can be harder.
It really is. Yeah. My son has dealt with bullying, which was really odd because he has so many friends. And I just wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
And to have it happen from a good friend that he's known since he was in kindergarten was really shocking. But I kind of just, had to let it play out because just because they're having that moment right now doesn't mean that there won't come back at another time.
Sure.
You kind of just don't know. So I really had to navigate that. And they love to make fun of his hair and they love, and he's both of my kids are very sensitive. I mean, I've been bringing Quinn in since she was born saying, why won't she stop crying? She's so sensitive. And I am not a sensitive person. I really don't care what anyone thinks. Like, I don't care what you say about me. My favorite thing to tell Shannon is whatever they say about me behind my back is none of my business. Like, that is my favorite quote. I could care less. But, kids are different and kids are really mean.
Yeah, they are.
And especially like when I told Griffin, you're going to go live at a military boarding school, is because he said something about Quinn's body. And it just ignited this fire in me. Like, you will never talk about anybody's body.
Right.
And, I've had the conversation a million times and it obviously is not working. So that's why I went to such an extreme level, which, was not the best. But if you stop saying it and it works, then it works. Like, I don't like talking about other people's bodies, anybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Just like mind your own business. Just worry about yourself.
Oh, it stinks that getting that high sometimes of getting like a reaction from somebody is like a dopamine hit.
Well, it's because it has ADHD.
And so these things are very satisfying. But yeah, when you're, some people get those highs from that cruelty because it gives them this feeling of an edge. And I hate that. I hate that that's like a positive response that you get from somebody else's pain. But when your hormones are fluctuating, and that's one of the things that it's interacting with in the central nervous system, it's like it heightens that response too. So I feel like that's part of what will sometimes make kids do that a little bit more is to get that little sensation that they get from feeling a little bit on top in that moment.
Yeah.
And then it takes life experience and somebody doing it from you to recognize that you don't want to do that to other people. But if they haven't had that life experience, then, they don't know any better sometimes. And if they're not being told that that's wrong at home and taught.
Yeah.
I talk a lot about with like 5 and 6-year-olds that come to the clinic about, talking to parents about make sure that like you don't just have that conversation about like what happens when people bully you. Like, also talk about not being the bully. Like, make sure that you recognize that your kid could easily be the person being mean to somebody. So, like, talk to them about, like, you don't need to be the bully either. Because I think it would hurt me more for my kid to be the one that was being mean, even for them, having somebody mean to them.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's a big deal. I mean, they're going to go through these ups and downs, and we're all imperfect. And, as much as I love my kids, they're not perfect. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to say things that they're not supposed to. And I'm trying to guide them the best way. But, it's kind of just have to go with the flow, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think there's so much. You've shared so much today that we appreciate. And I think the biggest takeaway I have so many takeaways. But that reminder that we're all human and we need to model the behavior, which we talk all the time about, can be very hard because sometimes I don't even know how to stay emotionally regulated and I'm trying to teach them. But thinking about our kids, preteen and teen kids who are going through this, I really appreciate the way you've shared the science and for us to remember that balance of yes, this is science and our brain, but also it can't be the excuse to just say and do awful things.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really helpful takeaway, and I appreciate you coming and spending some time with us. We are going to do rapid fire, but I want to make sure if there was anything else that we wanted to, ask or share or any takeaways.
Yes, I have something. When is your next Girlology class?
We haven't set the classes up yet. We'll do it's fall. So I usually do August, September, and November for Girlology, and then October I do the reproduction. So that's generally the timeline. Obviously that could switch at any point, but that's the plan for the fall.
Okay.
So we'll have one class on a Sunday in each of those months.
Because they fill up fast.
They can. It depends. Every now and then I'll have a class that fully fills in the day it opens up, and then sometimes I'll have spots open at the end. Like I don't, and sometimes it's just dates. Like I picked a Sunday and I wasn't realizing that there were like 13. Like the one I did before the reproduction class was on the tennis weekend / bridge run / there was some other festival going on.
There was 3 things happening.
Yes, and people were there, and it was crazy. And it was still it was a good turnout, but it was less than usual. And I was when it was like leading up to it, I was like, I wonder why this one isn't filling. And I was like, because everybody's doing whatever, or they don't want to try to drive across town with everything going on. So I'm being smart about picking those weekends. It's helpful on my end, but yeah, there's a lot of families in Charleston. There's a good need for this information. A lot of girls, and hopefully things like this can get the word out that it's here too, and just so people know that it exists.
Yeah, and we need to get to that puberty class.
Yes, we can't wait to bring the girls for that. All right, so you have rapid fire.
So a little bit of just quick rapid fire. The way we intend for this to go is very quick. First thing that comes to your mind, we'll kind of give you a prompt. We tend to be over talkers, and every time someone responds, we're like, "Oh my gosh, we feel that too." But we'll try to go through this in a true rapid fire.
It's your podcast. You do what you want. I don't care.
We kind of do. That's sort of
that is the beauty of it.
All right, so we'll start. We'll ease our way into it. A beach day or cozy night in?
Cozy night in.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Neither.
What's your water?
Water most of the day. Diet Mountain Dew once a day.
I love this.
It's a mixture. Sorry, you wanted to be fast.
No, I love
it's a mixture.
What happened?
But we have to.
This is a mixture of caffeine, right? So I don't like coffee. I've never liked it. Love the smell of it. Hate the taste of it. And I don't need to go in the morning. Like I wake up and I can go. I don't, I'm sleepy. I get out of bed, but once I'm up, like I have full energy. But that like right after lunch drag is where, so I have usually Diet Mountain Dew at lunch. I'm a type 1 diabetic. I was diagnosed when I was 11 years old. And back then, the only diet soda that I could be accessible to was a Diet Coke. I didn't love the taste of it. We had a friend who did business in Atlanta, and he would go by the Pepsi company and get me a Diet Cherry Coke and a Diet Cherry Sprite. Every time he went, he would get like cases of it and bring it back for me. And so soda is it's also like a weird comfort thing for me too. And Diet Mountain Dew just happens to be my favorite. It's got a good kick of caffeine. I like the taste of it. I don't have to take insulin for it, but there's something like very comforting about that for me too. So it's a good mix, but yeah, tea and coffee are not my thing. So.
I understand the comfort thing because I'm a big coffee person, but it's not because I don't think it's because I need, like, same when I'm up ready, but there's a comfort in holding the mug. Like there's just and the routine of it, it's very habitual now. Like I
think there's a lot of people who talk about it that way, like that in a way that I don't necessarily understand. But I'm like, I get that. Or it's my quiet time in the morning. Or it's like something I do that's like part of the routine that I love.
Yeah.
So I have another question then. Do you prefer the drink in a bottle or can? Do they taste different?
Yeah, I like the can better. I like the coldness better, but I like the volume of the bottle better.
Sorry, I love Diet Coke, and I am very particular. At some places, I don't like the fountain, so I'll ask them to bring me the can, and
I'd always prefer a fountain if there's a fountain drink. I like carbonation, so I would always prefer the fountain drink, but the can generally, yeah.
Okay, just curious.
I love it. Something you do just for you.
Gardening.
Love that. One thing that your kids do that instantly tests your patience.
Saying mom 10,000 times.
I feel
before I can even answer whatever question that they're asking, they ask me again and again and again.
Most common thing girls panic about during puberty.
The accident, the chance that blood's going to get on their clothes and they're not going to know, or they're going to be embarrassed by it, which is a fair thing to be worried about. Like,
I'm still worried about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's what we talk about, like having the kid, having it at school, having it in your overnight bag, having it in your sports bag, like whatever, like just for that confidence of feeling like you are as prepared as you can be. But I think that's the biggest concern for most.
Let's see. Most humbling mom moment. Sorry. I was like, oh, they'll be easy. I'm giving you I'm really going for it.
No, that one's easy. So had my girl first, and I literally, she could go to every restaurant with us and be fantastic. We could stay as long as we wanted. I could put her in front of a coloring book and she could color for an hour, and I could do laundry. I could take a shower when she was 18 months old. Like, she wasn't going anywhere, and I'd come back and like all the color was on the piece of paper. And then the middle child, and oh my God, having a boy was so humbling. Like, I couldn't take my eye off of him. He broke out of our house multiple times. We didn't go to restaurants for 2 years because it was awful. He'd eat everything we brought for him, and then he would just want to throw everything off the table and scream because he wanted to be down and he wanted to run. He destroyed everything. I wouldn't leave him alone for 2 minutes at a table with a crown. It would be on the wall. It would be on him. The paper would be torn up. He'd be gone. And so I think, I was like, what is this parenting? Like, this isn't hard. And then I had my son, and I was like, oh wow, this is what they all talk about. So yeah, that was definitely humbling for sure.
That's hilarious, and I totally relate. Something you swore you'd never do as a mom, but now you do.
Oh, I didn't see that one on there. I probably allowed desserts more than I thought that I would, because a hard, tough love mom. I'm very tough love when it comes to eating too, in the sense that like, you're not going to get another meal made for you. We're not going to accommodate for all your special requests. So my kids are fantastic eaters. And so when they eat their fruits and their veggies and their protein and everything, to reward them with like something or to let them have something, like, I think it gives more balance than to teach that like, this is like only a special thing that you get when I don't know. That's how I felt about it. But we had desserts growing up, and so yes, we do probably more sweets than I ever thought that I would. Because in my head, I was like, especially as a pediatrician, we won't. But it is with a balance of, they don't get to not eat their meal and get it, like something like that. But they generally can have something small after dinner, especially if they eat well.
Let's see. We'll do. I can't remember if preteen girls had a slogan. Oh no, we don't like that one.
I can't even see this.
I just like the preteen.
How do you even see that?
I don't know. This isn't my best work. Sorry. Okay, harder. Talking about emotions or talking about periods?
Oh, probably emotions. Obviously, periods is really easy for me to talk about. I love talking about it.
One thing you hope your daughter always feels from you?
I hope just supported. I hope that she feels like I don't care what she wants to do with her life as long as she's passionate about it. I don't care who she decides she loves. I don't care who she decides are her best friends as long as they're good to her. I mean, sorry, I say that with like caveats. Like, but like, I mean, I hope that she doesn't feel like she ever has to be anything in particular for me, that she can just be who she is, and I will love and support that. But I do hope so much that she is passionate about whatever it is. I think she is a type B personality. And so that has been hard for me to parent. I think that's been humbling, honestly, as I am like, I give 110% at the new game they all decide to teach me that I've never done before, or, class project that the teacher asked me to help with. Like, I'm going to, and she's kind of like, she will give it in the things that she's really passionate about and the things that she's not. She's kind of like, I'm fine to just fly under the radar. And I have a very hard time understanding that. But I'm okay with it as long as there are certain, like, I want her to have some things in her life that she really loves and she's passionate about. So I really try to like encourage those things, but support, like, I don't care what that is. It doesn't have to be my favorite things.
Right.
Like, she likes basketball. I was a college basketball player. I love basketball. I love coaching her in basketball. But if one day she was like, I don't want to do this anymore, like, I'm okay with it.
Right.
But as long as she says, I want to do it and I want you to coach me, like, I'm there. So that's kind of been my back of my mind is like, as long as she's there, we'll do it. And like the moment she says I'm done, I'm okay with that. But I hope that she just feels like I want to just be a part of whatever she wants me to be a part of.
I love that.
But I can't help her with music or art. There's nothing, zero help on that end. So it is nice that with basketball, I'm like, I can teach you this.
Like, that I can do.
Yeah, if you want to do anything else, go ask your dad. I can't help.
I can't ask any follow-up silly questions. That was such a beautiful response.
that was great. Yes.
It just says so much about you as a person, as a mom, as a human. Like that's the goal, right? Is
supportive.
Support your kids. We're not trying to like right our wrongs that we did through our children. That's like the word, you know what I mean? We want them to be their own individual people and we support them. And
that's a good point. I mean, I like, obviously it is a huge benefit being in my job because I have unlimited resources that are close to me.
Yeah.
I have knowledge. You know, I didn't freak out the first time my kid had a fever, the first time they had a rash.
I did.
Right? Like, I know, I think I have to tell myself sometimes in the clinic, I'm like, these parents don't have this knowledge base that I have. Like, would I ask some of these same questions or would I have some of these same fears if I didn't know this stuff? So I really try to be like empathetic about that and remind myself of that because I do get, you know, I have to remember that I'm so, you know, lucky to have all of that. But I also believe that there's so many right ways to parent. Like there is not like a path. And if you don't follow that path, like I don't, you know, a lot of new parents come in and they want to make sure they're following this book. I'm like, there's not a book. Like there's a lot of ways that you do this, right? But I learned so much from families and I like not only from like the frustrating or sad things that they go through, but also like the wonderful things that they're doing. Like I have some moms in my clinic that I have really tried to emulate a lot of what they've done because their children have just been so enjoyable to be around. I mean, from, you know, trying to recognize that like teenagers today have a hard time with eye contact. Like I'm trying really hard to be good about like screen time and interactions at home because of that. I had a foster mom that gave me great advice on, you know, how to deal with kids who are picky or kids who fight and like because she has to get so many kids in there and I've taken a lot of what she's taught me. And so it's nice. Like I feel like I learn as much as people like will say, oh, thank you for giving me this advice. I'm like, well, it came from somebody else. You know, I'm just like passing it along to you.
Yeah.
But
what made you go down the medical route with kids?
Medical, my mom has a thing when I was 5 that said that I want to be a doctor. That was like when I was 5 years old. And I have never varied from I wanted to be in the medical field. Thought I wanted to be a surgeon. Surgery, being scrubbed in, the diabetes, it wasn't a good fit. I did some shadowing and like realized that was not going to be a good fit for me. Okay. But to go, so like as a doctor, you go into medical school and then you do your residency and then you're so you get like some time before you choose where you want to go. But for MP school, you've got to choose what you want to do as you're going in. And the only medical experience I had going in was I had worked on a postpartum GYN unit. Loved the patients, I mean, most of the women that were there were just happy. And then all of the GYN patients that were really sick, they were there for a long time, got to really build relationships with them. Saw some sad stuff, but it was great. But the work wasn't monotonous, but for the job I was in, it was a little bit monotonous, what I was doing at the time. Then I went and worked in a trauma unit. Adrenaline is not my thing. It does not keep me going. Lost a patient almost every day. That was really hard and sad. But learned so much and was so driven by the knowledge that I got. And so when I was making my decision, I hadn't worked in peds, but I was like, I want to love my patient population and I want to be challenged. And I knew I liked kids. Yeah. And so I actually chose it kind of blindly and it was the perfect fit. Like kids are a product of their home and their environment, but you can always empathize with kids and you can always love kids and kids need good guidance and good role models. And so they're the easiest patients to love, but they're challenging. I mean, I see newborn to 21 years old. That's a huge gamut of things. I see something new every week, at least in the office that I've never seen before, whether it's a rash or a genetic condition or some kind of psychological thing, a medicine that a specialist is using that I've ever heard of. Like, so it's like, it's a big learning thing. So I feel like I'm constantly learning, but I get to develop relationships with these kids and I like that too. I like seeing them. I started at the practice almost 14 years ago. So I have kids who are now 13 that I saw like 2 days after they came out of the hospital, and I've gotten to watch them every year, and it's been really cool. So
that is cool.
It was the right job, but that was kind of how I ended up there, was just because I really like the kids. Like, just to go in and I'll see like a newborn and I'll get to hold them, and I'll see like a 6-month-old and I just get to squish them. And then, and then I'll have a 4-year-old and like the conversations are hilarious and you never know what they're going to say. And then you get to talk to your teenagers where they're really looking to you for like guidance and questions, and they're going through a lot, and you get to connect. And then they're going off to college or in college, and they're telling you about how good their life is and how everything's going to come together. It's all so cool.
That is really cool.
It's a fun job.
Special. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, I really appreciate y'all asking me and wanting me to come. Thanks.
Yes, we're so glad.
This was great. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so if you're in the thick of this stage right now, we hope this episode made you feel seen and maybe a little more grounded.
Because the biggest takeaway is this. This is a phase of massive change, and honestly, it's messy for everyone.
And if nothing else, just remember, connection matters more than getting it perfect.
We're so grateful for Keaton for breaking this down in a way that actually makes sense and feels doable in real life.
Yeah. If this episode resonated with you, send it to a friend who's in this stage too, because chances are she needs to hear this message just as much as you did.
And as always, thank you so much for being here with us. We're figuring this out right alongside with you.
We'll see you next time.